Woman of Reddit, what is your "I'm the client not my husband stop ignoring me" story? Wasn't my husband, not even my boyfriend, but a guy friend I happened to have around when a joiner came to fix something in my home. I welcomed the joiner in, started talking to him about the issue, then he saw my friend and did a 180 to talk to him. He literally turned his back on me while I was mid-sentence in my home. My scenario doesn't quite fit the bill, but I'm a female business owner with a male business partner. I've had a few customers born in the dark ages and reps that asked to speak to my boss, but the worst was a guy who snapped his fingers and told me to put the kettle on early. Needless to say, he didn't get his cuppa, and he certainly didn't get the discount he asked for. When I was a baby, for some reason I wouldn't latch on when my mother breastfed me, so I wasn't eating well. The doctor completely ignored my mom and only talked to my dad because she was too hysterical. He was on the verge of finding out what that looked like. I've been on the flip side of this. For years, I worked at bicycle shops and regularly sold some pretty expensive bikes. One day, a couple came in. The wife was interested in a bike, and it quickly became apparent that the husband was an overpowering, dominating type. She wants to do this. She doesn't want to do that. She likes this. She doesn't like that, etc. When it became clear she wasn't being allowed to do much speaking at all, I would let the husband ask the question, and he'd reply by physically turning and giving the answer to the wife, making eye contact with her only and pointedly ignoring the husband. It was pretty blatant. She loved it. She lit up, engaged with me, and genuinely seemed to enjoy the process of learning more about riding and getting into a new sport/hobby. Yeah, this side is rough, especially in the tattoo industry. The amount of couples that come in and the husband won't let the wife talk about the tattoo she wants on her body. Fortunately, it's an industry where getting told to duck off is not uncommon. So saying, mate, if you keep talking over the top of your partner, this is going to be a ducking shit tattoo. So how about you wait outside while we finish the consult is rarely frowned upon. It never goes down well. But duck those dudes. I took my colleague out to lunch. He wasn't a subordinate, he was at the same level. However, I was given a company card and he wasn't, due to the nature of our jobs. When the bill came around, the waitress gave it to him because she assumed he would be paying. He graciously grabbed the bill and gave it to me and said, "Shh, the boss." Smart move, made me feel validated, and he got a free lunch. It's not so much a particular story, but when I was shopping for a car several years ago, the salesman at every dealership kept talking to my husband instead of me, even though I was the one who contacted the dealerships and made sure to introduce myself first. My husband got sick of it and started telling them, "Don't talk to me. It's not my car. Talk to her." I wound up buying from a saleswoman who treated us equally until she pretty quickly figured out my husband was not involved whatsoever in the decision. As a sales manager in the car industry, that is one of the first things I teach my reps. Talk to both people. Happened to my mom when we went to look at colleges. The admissions guy opened by shaking my dad's hand, constantly directed questions at my dad, and would look to him for confirmation whenever my mom said something. My mom is de facto the money person of our family unit. She manages the family finances and investments and stuff, and was way more qualified to comment on things like student loans or expected contribution. When we left that meeting, she was absolutely furious that she had to basically fight the admissions person to have a normal conversation. My husband and I had our backyard completely dug up and re-landscaped when we bought our house. The landscaper was an older guy, probably around my dad's age, and my husband and I are pretty young to be homeowners. So I could kinda understand this dude's condescending attitude. When he came over the first time to do the estimate, he almost exclusively addressed my husband, even though I'd made it clear I was the one who was doing the designing and knew what I wanted done. When the work was done and I paid him, he kept looking behind me for my husband and almost didn't give me the aftercare instructions for the new sod, saying he wanted to make sure it was done right so he'd email them to my husband. I finally snapped. "Give me the damn piece of paper, Bruce. I'm the one who will be home during the day to do the damn thing." I worked nights at the time. He reluctantly handed it over and called my husband the next day to make sure the lawn got watered. My husband told him, "You'd have to ask her, Bruce. She told you she'd do the damn thing and hung up." I had, indeed, done the damn thing. Not a client paresse, but a relevant story. I, 38F, caught some hunters trespassing on my property. I wasn't rude to them at all. Just waved from the other side of the field. The next day they show up at my house, and one gestures towards the police car in the driveway and asks to speak to my husband about hunting in our woods. I was like, "You can talk to him if you want, but that's my cruiser and this is my land, not his." They still insisted on getting permission from my husband. We were looking into replacing our roof and found a metal roof company who was running a promotion. So I gave them a call and scheduled for someone to come out and give us a quote. I was able to answer all of his questions, but he refused to give me a quote without my husband present, with some sign, "Before we leave for best price" excuse, and was intent on driving back over the following day when my husband would be home. I called their main office shortly after he left and said I wasn't interested in any high pressure sales tactics. I just wanted a quote, and if they wouldn't give that to me, the one who would be paying for it, then to not bother coming back out. Didn't see them again. The 3 other roofing companies I contacted had no problem dealing solely with me. 25 years ago my husband and I are looking for our first house. He had just graduated and still had student debt. I had been practicing law and had 20k saved for the down payment. Real estate agent only spoke to husband, even if I asked the questions. In one house we went to look at the basement and the guy says, "You don't want to go there. It has spiders." I told my husband I wouldn't ever buy a house from him. Later the guy ran for office and I told everyone the story, including a woman that called me randomly to promote his candidacy. Turns out she was his mother. It's a small thing, but indicative of his attitude toward the fairer sex. Was invited to a weekend away with a supplier to launch their new range. My husband went with, and on the order day the financial manager of the supplier came up to my husband and asked him what he thinks about the new range and what he is considering to buy. My husband replied very dryly that he is only the +1 and that he must speak to me, seeing that I'm the one with the cheaper book. This August I bought a new truck and took my boyfriend with. He is white and I'm Mexican. We arrived at the dealership and I asked about the Explorer they had front and center. Salesman comes over and is asking a bunch of questions to my BF. He told him it's for me. I was ignored for the entire conversation. I got up and started looking at the truck. A Hispanic salesman comes and asks me if I need help. I was out of there within 1.5 hours, keys in hand. Found my BF with the other salesman. I looked at BF and said I bought the one I wanted. Manny got me squared away. The look of utter disappointment and anger on the guy's face was worth it. My BF chuckled and said I told you she was the one buying. Manny, you were great. I'm the husband, but when we have any kind of work done on our house everyone constantly tries to make eye contact with me and pal around. My wife does all of that stuff. I don't know anything about any of it. I literally spend the whole time redirecting people to deal with her. Sometimes I just excuse myself and have her fill me in on details which I don't care about or need to know later. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed watching this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below.